Translator, Ninetales. Editor, Fish Creek. Upon this sacrificial altar, not very large to begin with, a vertical blade light and a horizontal blade light suddenly flared. The horizontal blade light lopped the head from that Taoist, while the vertical blade light cleaved straight down from the crown of another female Taoist. That female Taoist was a divine arts practitioner of the Six Directions realm. Though she had never cultivated battle techniques before, a golden chain circled her forehead, and at the chain's center hung a jewel. Radiance burst from that jewel, hard stopping Chenmu's blade. Chenmu dragged his blade through regardless, and blood immediately welled on the woman's brow. Her vital chi erupted at once, and the horsetail whisk in her other hand blossomed like a flower with countless petals, thousands upon thousands of threads shooting to stab at Chenmu. Her assault had only just been unleashed when she saw countless sword lights drown her whole world. Midnight battle across stormy cities. Chenmu shifted his steps, slipping past the horsetail whisk that stabbed toward him, and in a blink he was behind the female Taoist's corpse, which had yet to topple. Behind that corpse stood another Taoist. That Taoist had already regained his senses. Yellow joss papers flew from the pouch at his waist. Yet in that very instant, Chenmu cast aside his knives and thrust with 2 fingers joined. The vital chi at his fingertips condensed into incomparably sharp sword light and pierced through the spot between that Taoist's brows, driving straight through his heart. Behind Chenmu, a dragon and an elephant surged up into the sky. The dragon coiled around Yun Kuei. Stepping upon the elephant, he charged toward a female Taoist to slaughter. A thunderous boom rang out as he smashed her straight into the devil god's sculpture. That female Taoist spat blood, her vital chi bursting outward and rebounding him away. She was about to strike him dead when a sword light flashed past and wiped her throat, releasing a soft clink. This woman's vital chi was so dense she actually used it to block that sword. Yet the very next moment, Chen Wanyan appeared at her side and seized the sword's hilt. With all his strength, he forced her onto the devil god's sculpture, then yanked his sword out in one savage pull, bloodlight bursting forth. Wolf Slave's body flickered as he sprang atop the sculpture's head. 2 devil knives appeared and vanished with ghostly unpredictability as he hacked downward. Meanwhile, Yue Qinghong stood upon Wolf Slave's shoulders, and sharp swords flew from the sword case on her back, forming drill sword form as she stabbed at a Taoist below. That Taoist snatched up a white banner planted on the altar and held it in a reverse grip. The banner quivered. The runes upon it lit up and wriggled out like bizarre red snakes, blocking the 2 devil knives. At the same time, Yue Qinghong's drill sword form bored through the banner and tunneled into the heart between his brows. At that same moment, Shi Yunshang swept past like a phantom, striking again and again with a strange mudra. Another female Taoist was vibrated to death on the spot. Every bone in her body shattered. Chen Wanyun's heart jolted at the sight. Junior sister Si hid her abilities well. Her cultivation is terrifyingly strong. He vaulted toward yet another Taoist, but that Taoist suddenly leaped down from the altar to flee. Behind him, the yellow joss papers drifted toward the sacrificial altar. Chen Wanyun immediately gave chase, but the yellow joss papers exploded one after another, blasting him away viciously. On the other side, Yun Kuei moved to block that Taoist, executing Great 5 platform mudra to seal off his path. That Taoist sneered and spread his 5 fingers wide. Thunder burst from the center of his palm and shook Yun Kuei's soul. That Taoist steadied his mind and shouted sternly, "A bunch of juniors who haven't even cultivated to 6 fusion realm, actually." Before the words could finish, a chill ran up from the back of his heart. He lowered his head and saw a sword piercing through his chest. He had absolutely no idea when the person behind him had closed in. Chenmu drew the sword back out, and the man croaked, "Great body technique." When the words fell, he collapsed to the ground and stopped breathing. Chenmu returned his sword to its sheath. On the altar, Yue Qinghong, Wolf Slave, and Shi Yunshang were still slaughtering the remaining Taoist. Circling the altar, they saw corpses strewn all around the devil god's sculpture. Some Taoists hadn't even fallen to the ground and were nailed to the devil god's sculpture. Some were hung upon the white banner, and some had been beaten into a heap of mush. Some had their heads smashed by an iron hammer. each death different from the next. The three of them were shaken. Si Yunxiang examined the corpses with a grave expression. These corpses had all suffered Qin Mu's ruthless strike in a single instant, dying before they could even unleash their divine arts. They all basically died from just one move, she thought silently, lifting her eyes to look at Qin Mu. 13 divine arts practitioners. Though their battle techniques weren't strong, divine arts practitioners were still divine arts practitioners. Even if everyone casually said that a strong practitioner of the spell school was surely doomed once closed in by strong practitioners of the battle technique school, that was only talk. If there was a gap in realm, battle techniques might not be able to break through an opponent's defensive divine arts. Even though they had caught the enemies unprepared, Qin Mu's battle prowess was far too fierce, and his speed was far too fast. Qin Mu gave his junior protector sword a sharp tremble, shaking off the blood. Sheathing it, he said, "Clean the battlefield and immediately destroy the devil god's sculpture." The moment the words left his mouth, a thunderous boom erupted from not far away. Bloodlight shone within the black fog, dyeing that pitch-dark haze a deep red. That bloodlight rose more than 300 yards high. Even from the mountain call, they could see it clearly. A terrifying power surged from another world, hammering at the place where the bloodlight burst forth. Right after, rumbling thunder sounded as bolts of lightning struck all around the bloodlight's vicinity. Those lightning bolts were space itself being compressed by that terrifying power. When power was too great, the vibration would squeeze space until it turned unstable. And when space became unstable, the lightning hidden within it would erupt. Everyone's faces went slack with shock as they watched an incomparably enormous body slowly stand up where bloodlight and lightning gathered. It was a devil god with horns on its head, 4 arms and 4 legs. Even though it was only a sculpture, towering flames overflowed from its body, as if a true devil god had descended into this world. This descended devil god was even taller than Deer Mountain. Smoke billowed from its body. Within the smoke were flames intermingled with rays of lightning. Meanwhile, the bloodlight soared up and hung above its head. There was another place where the great mountain sect was summoning another devil. Qin Mu's limbs turned ice cold. Over there, the divine arts practitioners of Great Mountain Sect had succeeded in their spell and summoned the devil god over. That imposing devil god's gaze was like interweaving bolts of lightning. Wherever its eyes swept, every tree and rock fizzled into ashes. Qin Mu exhaled a turbid breath and said in a low voice, "Strip!" Everyone froze for a heartbeat. Monk Yunquei muttered, "I have to undress again." Si Yunxiang understood at once and immediately stripped the clothes off the corpse on the ground. The others also understood Qin Mu's meaning and hurriedly pulled the clothing from the Great Mountain Sect's divine arts practitioners. Qin Mu likewise donned the garments of a Great Mountain Sect disciple, instructing in a low voice, "Pluck out those white banners and pick up the talisman treasures as backup." Chen Wanyun and the others went forward to yank out the white banners and collect the talisman treasures. When they were ready, they saw the devil god rampaging toward the river's surface, shaking enormous waves of surging river up into the sky. Everyone's expressions changed drastically. The dragon Qilin had also rushed over. Qin Mu said quickly, "We must leave here immediately. This place is no longer somewhere we scholars of 5 Elements realm can plant our feet. Do any of you have items on you that mark you as imperial scholars? Hand them all to me." Yunkei took out his pass and book tablet, muttering, "Are we really going to send ourselves to our deaths by going to the southern border?" Qin Mu stuffed everyone's passes and book tablets into his Taoti's sack and said, "We'll take a detour from the southern border. After we make it through this battlefield, we only need to cross the river, and once we reach the north bank, we'll be safe." He exhaled another turbid breath and was about to order them to move when his gaze flicked to the devil god's sculpture that wasn't yet completed. His heart wavered. He hoisted the sculpture up and tied it onto the dragon Qilin's back. "Let's go! To the south!" Everyone's mood was heavy as they followed him, heading south along the foothills. After 3 to 4 miles, they finally walked out of the area, shrouded in black fog. Another 3 to 4 miles on, Chinmu turned his head and saw that the black fog was like an incomparably huge black wok inverted over the surroundings of surging river, trapping both banks. In the very middle of the black fog stood an enormous gate, an opening between life and death, linked to the gate in the netherworld. I wonder how many people would survive in Lizhou, Chinmu thought to himself. Not long after, Chinmu suddenly halted. The army is here. Yun Kuei lit up with joy. Army? Our eternal peace's army? Chinmu shook his head and pointed ahead. The rebel army. Everyone looked forward. Dozens of ships were flying toward them. Gonfanon snapped on the ships, and around each ship wheeled strange beasts soaring through the sky. Countless species, shapes, and sizes. Below the army in the heavens were ranks of soldiers formed from martial arts practitioners and divine arts practitioners. Among the troops were gigantic beasts strapped all over with massive circular rocks. These beasts stood dozens of yards tall like moving mountains. With every step, the earth trembled without end. Chinmu and the others stood to one side, letting this vast army, bound for the surging river battlefield, pass by. A general standing on one of the ships cast a lightning-like gaze over, sweeping Chinmu and the others, then asked the officer beside him, "Who are those people?" The officer glanced at Chinmu and the others a few times and said, "They seem to be disciples of Great Mountain Sect. I'll go down and question them." That officer leaped down from the ship. Each time his feet touched the ground, a golden lotus bloomed beneath them. Lotus after lotus, with every step, he walked toward Chinmu and the others, making everyone feel fear and trepidation, as if facing disaster. This was a great expert of Seven Stars' realm, able to tread upon the void. If he wished to kill them, it would be as easy as blowing away a speck of dust. Seeing the devil god's sculpture on the dragon Chilin's back, the officer asked coldly, "Disciples of Great Mountain Sect, running without fighting, how should you be punished?" Chinmu cupped his hands and bowed, replying in a tone neither servile nor overbearing. "Our Great Mountain Sect has done everything we could. We have already summoned a devil god to aid in battle. Far from guilt, this is a meritorious deed." The officer gave a cold snort. "Yet you fled the battlefield. This is a crime punishable by death, beheaded on the spot." Chinmu's face filled with grief and indignation as he protested. "We suffered Lizhou's sneak attack. Among my 13 brothers and sisters, 7 died in battle. Only the 6 of us remain. When we were risking our lives, where were your people? Great Mountain Sect has already been exterminated, and only we are left. Do you truly want all of us to die there? General, leave some seeds for Great Mountain Sect." The officer hesitated and raised his head to look upward. On the ship in the sky, that general spoke solemnly. "Great Mountain Sect already has very few people. There is no need to pursue this. They have already rendered a great service by summoning a devil god to aid the battle. Let them execute their spells to confirm their identity, then release them." Chen Wanyun, Yun Kuei, and the others broke into cold sweat. They had never cultivated the spells of Great Mountain Sect. Chinmu activated a talisman treasure, and the general's voice rang out, "Not a talisman treasure, spells." Chinmu circulated his vital chi. It formed into a rune that shone upon the devil god's sculpture, lighting up a rune on the sculpture's body. That officer bowed and said, "General Xiao Yi, this is indeed ghost-transferring, god-dispatching rune's command of Great Mountain Sect." General Xiao Yi on the ship waved his hand. "Let them go. Move the army and attack Lizhou. Halt." General Xiao Yi's gaze settled on Chinmu and the others, and a smile curled at the corners of his lips. "Send them to Heaven Wave City, and have them summon a devil god there as well." Translator Nine Tails, editor Fish Creek. Heaven Wave City? Chinmu and the rest's expressions shifted slightly, as if they had only just slipped free from a wolf's fangs. Only to step straight into the maw of a tiger, General Xiao Yi smiled faintly. Great Mountain Sect's ghost-transferring god dispatching runes. Command truly lives up to its name. Heaven Wave City is likewise attacking the opposite shore. If a devil god were to assist them, the casualties in Heaven Wave City would be greatly reduced. Lin Ding, you shall accompany them. That officer immediately cupped his fists and acknowledged the order. General Xiao Yi waved his sleeve, and the army surged forward like a steel torrent. Chinmu and the others bowed. When the troops had passed, Officer Lin Ding turned with a smile. "Junior brothers, let us proceed to Heaven Wave City." Chenmu's expression remained placid as still water. Please lead the way, Officer Lin. Lin Ding chuckled. Your great mountain sect has rendered a meritorious service. Though only a handful of you remain, you can still summon a devil god to aid us in battle. Your sect will surely rise from the ashes and shine once more. You are young, yet you wield such miraculous arts. I truly admire that. Chenmu threw back his head and laughed, face radiant. We are indebted to the officer's auspicious words. Speaking of which, officer, you appear not much older than us, yet your cultivation is formidable. May I ask what realm you currently stand in? At the peak of 7 Stars realm, yet advancing into celestial being realm is ever difficult. Lin Ding sighed ruefully. Celestial being is a lofty threshold. Now that the world is in upheaval, we must enforce justice on heaven's behalf, purge the imperial court's corruption, and eliminate that renegade imperial preceptor. This chaos is an opportunity. Perhaps through it I may break through. You may be young, but you must seize this chance as well. Seeing their puzzled looks, he spoke solemnly. Since ancient times, heroes have emerged from battlefields. The more chaotic the world, the easier it is to advance. Why? Because when powerful practitioners clash, their philosophies collide. All manner of divine arts, paths, and skills surface, broadening one's horizons, deepening one's knowledge and experience. The pressure of strong opponents, the weight of life and death, these temper one's resolve, driving continual improvement. Take your great mountain sect's ghost-transferring god dispatching runes command. Who would cast such a spell in times of peace? Only amidst chaos does it find use, and only through use does one improve. Chen Wanyun and the others found his words sound and reasonable. This ghost-transferring god dispatching runes command, once neglected, had indeed expanded their horizons. Even after Great Mountain Sect's annihilation, its remaining disciples could summon a devil god to assist in battle. How astonishing was that devil god's might! A seemingly unremarkable spell could unleash such terrifying power. It shook them to the core. Likewise, Soul Guide was also a humble spell, lacking formidable might. Whenever they encountered such spells in the floor of heavenly records, they would casually toss them aside without deeper study. Among the thousands of spells recorded in the floor of heavenly records, many surpassed these two in sheer destructive force. Yet it was a low-level spell like Soul Guide that had overturned the course of war in an instant, causing a border commander like Yuyuan Chuyu to suffer a crushing defeat, making it impossible to defend Lizhou, Soul Guide, and Ghost Transferring God dispatching runes. Command possessed no inherent might. Yet when cast at the right moment, the power these neglected spells could unleash far exceeded that of a grand army numbering in the tens of thousands. Though Officer Lin Ding belonged to the opposing side, his experience vastly surpassed theirs, and that fact weighed heavily upon them. With Lin Ding's cultivation and experience far above their own, should he notice the slightest flaw, they would likely meet a miserable end. Moreover, even if Lin Ding detected nothing amiss, if they failed to summon the devil god upon reaching Heaven Wave City, they would still die. Even if they successfully summoned the devil god and it slaughtered Eternal Peace's army, upon returning to the capital, they would still face death. However they examined the situation, it seemed a path fated for doom. If we attack him together with all our strength, could we eliminate this great expert? Chenmu calculated silently, yet victory seemed uncertain, unless he could persuade the Dragon Qilin to act. However, given the Dragon Qilin's nature of resigning himself to adversity, it would be difficult to make him stake his life. We dealt with 13 divine arts practitioners. Why can't we handle a 7 Stars realm expert? Chenmu's gaze flickered. After walking several miles, sudden shouts rang out. A band of bandits charged forth, blades flashing. These bandits were not weak. Their leader was a divine arts practitioner, while the rest were martial artists. As murderous intent flared, Officer Lin Ding smiled calmly. Do not worry, mere vermin. Let them come. The bandits surged forward. Lin Ding raised a single hand and formed a mudra. Thunder erupted from his palm. With a resounding boom and a flash of white brilliance, dozens of bandits exploded into fragments. Even the divine arts practitioner burst apart instantly and perished. Thunder in palm of the battle technique school. Chenmu's heart jolted. This was a thorny opponent indeed. Against a battle technique school expert, Ambush was useless. They were only martial artists of Five Elements realm. If they attacked together, at best they would scratch Lin Ding's back, incapable of harming him. Anxiety coiled in their hearts as they followed Lin Ding toward Heaven Wave City. Chen Mu asked, General Lin Ding, may I inquire about General Xiaoyi's background? Lin Ding's expression filled with admiration. General Xiaoyi is the crown prince of Justice Exist country. After Justice Exist was annexed, its emperor was granted kingship under a different surname, while General Xiaoyi was conferred Prince Xiaoyi. Now that Imperial Preceptor has thrown the martial world into chaos, this is the devil's path. It is an opportunity for General Xiaoyi. He may yet rebuild his empire. Heaven Wave City lies ahead. Before them rose an unbroken mountain range along the shores of surging river. The peaks forced the river to curve around them, and Heaven Wave City stood upon the mountains that cut into the river's path. Below were sheer cliffs and precipitous rock faces, making surging rivers surge more violently. Whenever towering waves crashed against the cliffs, they produced earth-shaking roars. The shattered waves soared skyward, like countless white jade pearls raining from the clouds. Waves striking the heavens, thus Heaven Wave City earned its name. At that moment, rebel soldiers filled the city, gazing across the river at Eternal Peace's army, gripping their weapons and awaiting the moment to strike. Lin Ding brought them into Heaven Wave City. The one guarding this place is a cult master-level existence, the Dragon King of Dragon Rider sect. You must have heard of him. Though his personal ability is not extraordinary, he has raised a flood dragon of formidable might. It can slay life and death realm experts without difficulty. Ah, that ahead is the Dragon King's son, Long Jiaonan. The general on watch was a handsome, coquettish man clad in brightly colored robes. Heavy makeup adorned his face, striking to the eye. It was the young sect master of Dragon Rider sect, Long Jiaonan. Lin Ding led Chen Mu forward for introductions. Long Jiaonan exchanged greetings, then paused upon seeing Chen Mu. This person seems familiar. Alarm stirred within Chen Mu's heart. He lowered his head respectfully. When he first entered the capital, he had boarded a ship with Wei Yong from River Tomb. Long Jiaonan had ridden a giant serpent through the skies and slaughtered everyone aboard, leaving only him and Wei Yong to escape. In that chaos, Long Jiaonan may have glimpsed his face. These are disciples of Great Mountain Sect, Lin Ding introduced. They summoned a devil god in Deer County. General Xiaoyi wishes them to cast their spells here in Heaven Wave City, to summon a devil god to assist in battle. Long Jiaonan could not recall where he had seen Chen Mu, yet his eyes brightened as he chuckled. Summoning a devil god? How interesting. What magical artifacts do you require? I shall prepare them, Chen Mu immediately replied. We require only a white bone sacrificial altar, 13 by 13 yards. It must be constructed entirely of bones, with skulls laid upon the platform. The skull's eye sockets must face upward. There can be no carelessness. How troublesome. Long Jiaonan smiled faintly. In chaotic times, corpses are plentiful. Wait a moment. I shall have it prepared. If bones are insufficient, we shall kill some to make up the difference. The lives of Heaven Wave City's people are worthless. Chen Mu added, We are performing a secret art. We must not be disturbed. Might General Long. Long Jiaonan cast him a coquettish glance, sending goosebumps along Chen Mu's spine. He smiled. I understand. Be at ease. I shall station soldiers outside the altar. But if you fail to summon the devil god and make a fool of me, I shall violate you thoroughly. Chen Wanyun, Yun Ke, and Wolf Slave felt their hair stand on end. Si Yunxiang and Yue Qinghong, however, remained calm. Before long, Long Jiaonan had ordered his subordinates to construct the white bone sacrificial altar within the city lord's manor. Soldiers were dismissed and stationed outside to prevent them from witnessing the ritual. Chen Mu surveyed the surroundings. Over 100 soldiers stood guard beyond. Escape seemed nearly impossible. What shall we do? Upon the altar, all eyes turned to Chen Mu. Chen Wanyun whispered, We are deep within enemy territory. See, Senior Uncle Chen, you must decide. He finally addressed Chen Mu as Senior Uncle. Yun Kuei and Yu Qinghong were bewildered but did not question. Chen Mu said solemnly, Of course we cast a spell to summon the devil, inviting the devil god. Yun Kuei leapt in fright. We have never learned Great Mountain Sect spells. How do we summon a devil god? I have learned them. Chin-Mu carried the devil god sculpture onto the altar. He planted white banners at the four corners and said, "I shall perform the summoning and dispatch the devil god. Great Mountain Sect requires 13 people for this ritual, but I believe I can accomplish it alone, though it will be somewhat troublesome." Yun-Kei hesitated. "If we summon a devil god to massacre Eternal Peace's army, our entire families will be executed. Do not worry. There must be some trick to summoning the devil god, otherwise the summoners themselves would perish." Chin-Mu's gaze flickered as he exhaled a murky breath. "If we summon the devil god and have him attack Heaven Wave City, chaos will ensue. We may escape amidst the turmoil. Stand guard and watch for any movement. I shall cast the spell." They immediately formed a perimeter around the altar. Chin-Mu took out the talisman treasures and examined the runes across their 1,024 surfaces, committing them to memory. He compared them with the runes carved upon the devil god's sculpture, muttering to himself before beginning the incantation. His vital chi surged forth. Threads of chi lifted the 13 talisman treasures into midair, encircling the sculpture. From his nasal and oral cavities emerged an obscure and ancient tongue. His chi pushed the talismans to transform, igniting their runes one by one. The glowing runes projected onto the sculpture, lighting the inscriptions carved around the devil god. Chen Wanyun and the others were astonished. The language Chin-Mu spoke was not their own. It resembled Great Mountain Sect's incantations, yet carried deeper resonance. "It is devil language," Si Yunxiang whispered. The sculpture's runes illuminated one after another. To control 13 talisman treasures required memorizing over 1,000 runes and their arrangement. Though Chin-Mu had not mastered the computational canon of supreme mystery, his memory had grown by leaps and bounds. He controlled them with composure. An hour passed. More than half the sculpture's runes glowed. As he chanted devil language, Chin-Mu felt a connection forming through the sculpture. A link to an existence from a dark world beyond space and time. At that very moment, more than 10 Taoists carried another devil god sculpture and hurried toward Heaven Wave City. When Officer Lin Ding saw them, he welcomed them with a smile. "You Great Mountain Sect fellows have arrived at just the right time. Your junior brothers and sisters are within the city, summoning the devil. It has already been quite some time."